What is going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing the chassis harness. Yeah, I know, long video, sorry about that, but before we get into it, I just want to say in the description there will be timestamps for each section, because in the beginning I go over which plug does what, and then from there we do the front section, then we do the rear, and then we do the middle. And you know, if you just want to skip ahead, then definitely in the description will be a timestamp. It'll help guide you. Hopefully those work out for you. But I just want to say that this video has taken a couple weeks to do, so the continuity errors just everywhere. It's just a mess. But you know, what can you do? But I'd really appreciate it if you guys would comment down below. Let me know if this helped you, or let me know if you had other questions. And then also, you know, drop a like. This took a lot of work. It took a lot of time. And I just wanted to get it done, get it out of the way, and be as in depth as possible for you, so you can make your own chassis harness. Alright, but without further ado, let's just jump right in. But yeah, like, we're gonna go through stuff like this. This is the plug for the fuel pump. I've got everything labeled, so I'll go over everything with you guys, and assuming your wires are the same colors, like no one messed with your harness before, because this is going off of the factory service manual. All the wiring diagrams in there, I've spent countless hours going through that and scouring the internet, trying to find wiring diagrams and trying to find which plug does what and which wire color does what in each plug, and I've just spent so much time into it, so I figured I'm gonna try to save you guys so much time so you can just go along with the video. It's probably gonna be a longer video just because I really want to go super in depth with it, and I want to make sure that you guys get it and you guys understand it and everything goes smoothly for you guys. But just a disclaimer, there's going to be a lot of continuity errors in this video because this is going to be spread out within like weeks most likely, so shirts are going to change, haircut is going to happen. But I just want to give you guys a heads up, this video is going to take quite a long time. Like, we'll see how long it takes. Today is September 8th, really, it's 2 in the morning at September 8th, so we'll see what day we finish. So before we get into the plugs and everything that's in the car, I want to show you guys this. I actually have a video on this. It's a relay slash fuse panel up there if you want to check it out. And essentially this, oh, I didn't even have the screws in. This is where all the main stuff is gonna come from. The light bars, the radiator fans, the fuel pump. But yeah, I'll explain why I did that in a second, but that's our main like power hub, and that is going to be mounted there behind the driver's seat in that mess, and the battery is going to be on the other side, and I have a 250 amp breaker that's going to go somewhere in between those two. That's all you need to know right now about this guy, and the reason it's a box and not just a panel, and the reason it's not going mounted under the dash, one, because it takes up so much room, and two, well, that's about it. It takes up so much room, but we had to make it a box because this is not your typical 240, like, at all. So it's an off-road car. Yes, it works. Before you start commenting, it does work. It works fucking amazing off-road. You don't need four-wheel drive to have fun. Pre-runners aren't four-wheel drive. Trophy trucks aren't four-wheel drive. There's a lot of things that aren't four-wheel drive. We're not crawling rocks and stuff with this. Essentially, everything a dune buggy can do, this can do as well. But yeah, so that's that guy. Here we have a switch panel, which honestly I really love, because I was nervous. It came from China, so little children made this, and they did a damn good job. Like, good on them. For the quality is great. Just the switch feel is awesome. The switches light up when you press them, and they always have these little lights on, and then when you press them, those go on. It's got a voltmeter. That's the big reason I got this one, is because a gauge for the battery voltage, It's great. Also, boom, 2 USB ports. That's great. Cigarette lighter I'm probably never using, but you know, it's there. I'll hook it up just in case. So yeah, there's the switch panel. That's where the light bars are going to be on, the radiator fans, and the fuel pump are going to be there. We also have this guy. I'll be one of those cool kids with a start button. So that's awesome. We'll figure out all that when we get to there. Here we have our breaker, 250 amp breaker that if it pops, you know, you can just reset it. Boom. And we have our battery disconnect, which is going to act like a key because we're not using the ignition cylinder that's on the steering column that the key goes into. We're just bypassing that, not using it. So this will be our key essentially, because it does come off like that. Boom. So yeah, that'll be our cutoff switch. I'm not sure where this will be mounted yet. Again, not sure where this, I have an idea where this is going to go, but not 100% sure, you know, where it's going to go because I don't have a battery yet. So I think that's it as far as like new things, you know, nice new shiny awesome things. Now we'll get on to the actual plugs and everything. So here's our wiper motor. This is how the thing gets set up. Essentially, this wire, this teal, I think it's labeled light green in the service manual. This is the constant power that's fused power, meaning have a 20 amp fuse on this circuit for this motor. It needs a 20 amp fuse for it. And this black wire is ground. Black's typically ground. There are a few plugs that don't use the black as ground. Some don't have black, others do. This is the light green with red stripe, and that is the signal wire for the slow speed. And I decided to use that because we're not using the auto return. So as in like when your car's going and it's doing its thing with the wipers and it goes, if you turn the thing off, like when it's right here, it'll keep going and then go back down. We won't have that. And if I have it on the fast setting all the time, then it could get stuck here, it could get stuck there, it could get stuck somewhere in the way. I didn't want to have to deal with that. Also, I live in Southern California, so rain is not an issue here. We need rain, we just don't get any. So I'd like it to be slower so I can time it better, so I'm spending less time trying to get it out of the way and more time focusing on the road. So yeah, those are the 3 wires I'm using off the plug for the motor, and these are the 2 wires I'm using that go to the actual stock that the switch is on, because I wanted to retain using the OEM stock so I can I don't have to add a switch for it or put it on my lovely switch panel. I'd like to keep that as least amount of things on there as I can, so I'd like to retain the OEM switch for this. So we're gonna be able to do that, so that's awesome. And for some reason, when I hooked a relay into this circuit, I could not get it to work. And yes, I hooked it up correctly. I double, triple, quadruple checked. I checked so many times. For some reason it did not want to work, so we're just not going to run a relay on here, which is fine. Relays do help for sure, but you don't need a relay. As long as we have this 20 amp fuse, if anything goes wrong, the fuse will pop before anything bad happens. That's what they do. That's by design. That is what a fuse does. So this mess is the hardest part for me anyways that I found was this. So this is the other stock, this guy, that is for your lights here and your turn signals and your high beams too, but we'll get into that when we get there. So this mess, this is the turn signal / hazard light assembly. This is a monster. Trying to figure out was a nightmare, but we'll just dive right into it. This is the flasher relay here. Here's the OEM one. This is what it looks like when you're trying to find it. And it is going to be under the dash, and I forget if it's on the left or the right side, but it's under the dash, and it looks like this. On that plug we have a ground, which is black, and we have a light green with a black stripe, and that just gets connected to the light green with black stripe from the hazard switch and the stock plug. And then the other wire we have coming off is a green with red stripe, a dark green with red stripe, and that goes to the dark green with red stripe on the hazard plug. So that's the flasher relay. That's everything on there that you need to know. You know, ground's easy enough. Now on the hazard switch, we have a dark green and a dark green with white stripe. That is your power. You need to have power going to there. We also have a red with a blue stripe, like it's like a navy blue, and that just gets connected to this guy, the plug that goes into the turn signal stock. Those two wires get connected. They're the same color on both plugs. All three have this light green with black stripe wire. Those all get connected. The hazard plug and the flasher relay both have the dark green with red. Those get connected. And coming off the hazard switch and the stock for the turn signals is the left turn signal, which is the dark green with yellow. And the right turn signal is this dark green with black. That's this guy here, and that is only on the hazard switch and the actual stock that goes in. And then you tap into the right turn signal, and you have that going to the front and the rear turn signals, and those will power those guys. Same thing with the left, you just branch off from here, go to your turn signals. So this guy, the stock plug, that's what we're going to call it. The red and red with white stripe are power, so you need power going to these two wires, and it needs to be on a 15 amp fuse. This is the headlights. We've got this is the driver headlights. It doesn't matter because they both, driver and passenger headlights, go on at the same time. I think they do this because if one goes out, the other can stay up. That's why headlight motors are the same way. They when you have pop-ups, they're on two different circuits, so if one goes bad, the other still works. But I'm just going to most likely use these the way they are, just not pay attention to which side is which. But the green with yellow stripe and the red with black stripe is the driver headlights. The high beam and the low beam. The red is the high beam and the green is the low beam. I will not be using the red, and we'll get into that in a second. But again, this is the passenger headlight, so it is a red with green stripe and a solid green. So that is that assembly, and that was way harder than it looks to figure out because the stock wiring goes through so much crap. It goes through a time control unit, goes through a headlight timer, goes through an amp in the case of the wipers, and it is just not fun trying to figure out. So that's essentially what you need to know. Now here's the stock mess, but earlier I showed you guys this. This is the fuel pump plug. It's blue and kind of nasty and dirty. There are 5 wires coming off of it, 2 of which are ground. They actually go to one wire. So those 2 are ground, they're 2 blacks. And then you have a power wire, which is a black with yellow stripe. Here you have your gas gauge wire, which is a green wire. And then this red with black stripe is your fuel light. When your fuel gets low, the light turns on. That's what this wire does. So on my 240, my gas gauge did not work. Now I don't know if that's because the wiring was bad, or that was because the sending unit was bad, or the wiring wasn't hooked up in the gas tank, because the wiring was a little weird because they did put an aftermarket fuel pump, and I since changed it to an OEM one because I didn't know it was aftermarket and I had already bought the OEM one and the fuel pump went out. So I don't know if we're going to be using the gas gauge and the fuel light, but I think I will run the wires for them just in case. And yeah, so the real important ones are the power and the ground, because the fuel pump is just going to be constantly on and it'll be sending fuel to the motor, and then it'll go in the fuel rail, and then the fuel pressure regulator will let fuel come back into the tank because it wants to keep the fuel rail at the same pressure throughout the whole time fuel is in it. So if it exceeds that pressure, then it'll let the gas slip through and then go back into the tank. So the fuel pump will just be constantly on and constantly going, and the fuel will be going in and out and in and out and in and out. And that will be on a switch on the switch panel. This plug is the plug for your tail lights. It's the one back there. It's the main one where everything goes into, and then it branches off to this guy. We'll go over that too. You have a ground, and that is just a solid black. And then you have the tail light power, which is a red with navy blue stripe. You have a brake light power, which is a red with a green stripe that you can't really tell, but it is a red with green stripe. And then you have a turn signal, which is a green with yellow stripe. So on this guy, this is the other taillight plug. This is the one that goes right there, right here for this lamp. We have the ground, this black wire. We have a red and blue, which is the taillight wire. And we have a red and green for the brake lights. On here, this is the reverse light. We've got a power and a ground for the reverse light. Real simple. Nothing crazy as far as that goes. And it is the same on this side, except the colors are a little different as far as the turn signals go. So the taillights are the same red-blue for power for the taillights. The ground is black, and the red-green is the brake lights. So on this plug is where we have the different color. We've got the red-green is still the brake lights, the red-blue is still the taillights, and the black is still the ground, but the turn signal is green-black rather than green-yellow. Green-black is the side for the driver. So yeah, that's about it as far as the back. I don't think I'm going to be hooking up the third brake light. I may end up doing it, but I don't think I'm going to be keeping this hatch. But yeah, and as far as like things like speakers go, one, I'm going to relocate the speakers, but they're just two wires that go to your head unit. It's real simple. The head unit installation manual will tell you which wire goes where, and if you have the OEM radio, you probably should get an aftermarket one anyways, because chances are your OEM one doesn't even work. And here we've got a light bar which just has power and ground, so that's pretty simple. And here we actually have LED cubes. They are the little light bars. Those are also just power and ground. Those will be on the same switch, so one switch turns them both on. Up here we have the wiper motor, which we went over. And here we've got headlights. We're going to have turn signals and the radiator fans. So the radiator fans I turned into plugs. I used the old headlight wiper motor plugs because I had to fix my headlights. So they don't go up and down anymore because we've got intercooler piping there now. So they're just fixed up, so that's okay with me. But we've got our radiator fans on plugs. It's just a power and a ground. In my case, it's orange and black. And here is the headlight harness. Now this is real simple too. So the pink is ground. For some weird reason they used pink with a black stripe instead of just black. The low beam is green, just a solid green, and the high beam is a red with a green stripe. Now we will be using all three wires on here. We just won't be using the original high beam stock. So our high beam is not going to be like that, and then the high beams turn on and then turn off. We're not doing that. So we're going to be putting the high beams on this switch. And the reason I did that is because we don't have headlight motors anymore, and what that switch did was you have your headlights down, you drive past another 240, you want to say hello, you press that button, they go up and they go down. You do it with Miatas too, Miatas do it all the time, but that's what that button does. So essentially you press it and you let go and it'll go up and then down. If you hold it, they stay up. So I thought, okay, well, let's put the high beams on it, so I can just real quick flash someone, or if I want to keep it on for a while, then I can. But we do have light bars, so the high beams aren't as bright as the light bars, so there's no reason for me to have the high beams on. So it'll just be like, hey, you're driving too slow, or hey, I'm over here. Like if you're trying to find someone, you just flash them real quick. Yeah, so that's how that's gonna go. And I was going to repurpose the defroster switch, but I blew it up trying to figure out which wire does what. So yeah, that's just for show now. But yeah, as you can see, I don't have a bumper on, and I will not get a bumper. We're going to be building a skid plate, and that'll be the bumper, this bash bar. But anyways, no turn signals. I will be having turn signals though, I just got to figure out where to mount them, and a turn signal is going to be 2 wires, but I'm seeing ones for 3 wires because one's a daytime running light. Now, all I'm doing is just running 4 wires to there because it's a 4 conductor piece of wiring. So I'm just running that through there, and then I'll be able to use 4 wires if I need to. If I only need 2, then I only need 2. But I'd rather not need the extra wire and have it there than not have the wire but need it. And on this side, you can actually see I actually started on it. We've got, this is the 4 conductor wire here, this gray one, and that's the turn signals. One of these is the fans and the other is the headlights. This one's high beams, this one's low beams, and this is radiator fan. Yeah, so I've got 3 powers going to there, and they're gonna go meet up in the center under the dash. And we're going to be doing the same thing on the other side. Now I actually decided to tuck this so they run under here, you can see, up through there, and they actually run into here and go through there. There's not a whole lot of room in like this section here, so it is a little tricky, but you can get it through. This is probably like a 1/2 inch thick of wire, or like 3/8 inch of wire. And it fit, it fought me, but it fit. And I'm going to be getting it to run through the cowl here. The reason we're doing that is because it'll look so much cleaner. And we've got in here that big hole right there that you can sort of see. For some reason that's there, and we're going to take advantage of it. But yeah, so that's what we're doing as far as there, and those are the only things going to the front. We're going to be doing the same thing on the other side. It's getting all the wires, run them through there, somehow get them into the cowl, run them straight over to there, because I don't want to reutilize this stock grommet that you can barely see, but the wire harness used to go out of the grommet down there, run up along the fender and in through there. I'd like to not do that. I don't want any wiring near the tires. Yeah, so it's going to go through there and over to that side, because I don't think there is a opening on this side to get the wire down. So we'll just run it over to there and call it good. And everything is going to meet in the center, and then we're going to have our wires that need to go to the relay box go there. Alright guys, so that's probably going to do it for this section of the video. So next time you see me have a haircut, I'll look better, and you know, different shirt. But yeah, so that's gonna do it for this section of the video, guys, just explaining what everything is and which wires you need and what wires do. So what will be a few days for me is going to be instantaneous for you guys, so we'll just get on to the next section now. Alright guys, so I told you, I'm gonna get a haircut. We got it. It's about damn time. But anyways, let's just jump right into what we're going to be doing today. So as you guys saw earlier, we do have this side pretty much done. You know, it's routed to there. We just got to get it into the cowl and then into the cabin. And I went ahead and did this off camera. I did this side too. So this side is ready to go as well. So now we just got to figure out how to get it in here. So you guys see those 2 dots in there? Those are 2 rivets, and that plate looks like it's about the same size as this, which is plenty of room to get all my wires through. So I think I'm going to try to drill those 2 rivets out, and it's on both sides, and then that will make things so much easier. Alright guys, so change of plans. Turns out that little flap in there, so you see that little piece in there is just a flap, so I can just push the wire through it. I don't even have to drill or anything, so that makes life easier. So as you guys saw, we got the harness in, so that's awesome. We'll have to do the same to this side. However, the wipers will be working, so that will be moving like that. So in order to get the harness out of the way, we're going to end up securing it up along the back portion. You can kind of see it there. And to do that, we're going to drill holes along this top section, 2 holes, one on top of the other at various sections, and put a zip tie through. And then once the zip tie is through, we are going to caulk around the hole so we seal it up, because water will be getting into there when it does rain. But I mean, again, Southern California, when's that gonna happen? So yeah, I did have this section in a loom. This part is not, because right around here it gets super tight and I just can't fit a loom with the amount of wires going through, so that's unfortunate, but not the end of the world. But we can fit a loom in there, so we will have the loom on it. So that's what I'm going to do to this side and then get it through. So to get the wire to go through there, I had to push on that flap there. It's just secured like in 3 spots. And this corner is not, so you can kind of bend it and push the wire around it that way to get it to go through. And then you can see kind of in there the loom going through that little flap. I think that flap is there like so water doesn't get caught up in the cowl. It just drains. So guys, as you can see, we've got them both in now, so that's awesome, and it looks pretty damn clean. You can just push this guy under there, boom, no wiring there now. Everything looks good, and we got our loom zip tied in 3 places up there, basically 1 zip tie per hole, because like how am I going to put the zip tie on if I can't access to it, you know? And we've got our zip ties in here, we got the 2 down there, we've got 1 up there, and then we'll have to put some caulking around the hole so water and dust does not get into the cabin. That's not hard to do. But yeah, it came out pretty good, and also doesn't go anywhere near the loom, so that's great. So yeah, that's the whole front section in the cabin now, as far as up here. The only other thing is this guy, the wiper plug, which I'm working on right now. Getting that going. I'm just about to solder the wires together to get to extend them. So again, we've just got, you know, our power, our signal wires, which is just going to the switch. So those will be extended and then connected to each other, and then the grounds. Alright, so now we've got the wiper plug. We've got all the 3 wires coming off of it. The green is the signal wire, which is going to go to the switch on the turn signal stock, or the wiper stock, the other stock. The ground is the black, and the red is the power that's going to the fuse box. Now I'm going to do what I did on the other 2, where every like 6 inches or every foot I would put a little thing of electrical tape just to keep it all together. So I'll be doing the same to this one and to all the other harnesses. So with this wiper plug, we got a little bit of loom on her. And we're going to be doing the same thing we did with the front wiring, is running it through the cowl. So here's where the motor mounts and the plug goes that way, so it's going to go there in a loop. And we're going to drill a hole to have it go through there and then go follow the other looms. Alright guys, so I put the wiper motor in just to mock up how long the plug is going to be as far as what's in the bay, and I decided to go with one of these guys. They are strain relief connectors, or known as cord grips in the electrical field. So I'm going to be using a few of those, but I wanted to use there because now it can't move, and it also has this gasket there around the actual fitting itself, so it is waterproof. But yeah, so now we have our harness in there. We can go the same route as that harness, get it into the cabin. Alright guys, we've got our 3 harnesses in. We've got the front right headlight assembly, and we got the front left headlight assembly, including the fans, and we also have the wiper motor in there now. So that is pretty good progress. I think that's going to be it for today, but I'm real happy that we got those in the cabin. So next I think I'm going to be doing this section of the car, the back end, because it's just tail lights, reverse lights, and the license plate lights, and brake lights too, but that's, you know, part of the tail lights. So I think I'll be doing that next, because I just have to have one harness coming off each of them going to there, because that's where the fuse panel is going to be. Oh, almost forgot the fuel pump. We've got to get that in the same loom as well. Alright, so we mounted the fuse box relay panel thing. I literally just drilled through the car, drilled down, had the bolts coming up, washer, lock washer, nut, called it good. So yeah, that's that. I ran the wire from there all the way in the back. There, I ran it back in here. You can see that. Back in there, and it literally goes all the way through, and it comes out over here. And then I have it come out right there. It goes up along the fender. And then we've got our wires right here. We've got the black as the ground. All the grounds are going to be tied together. They're going to go to that bar up there on the top left. And then from there, we'll have the ground coming out, going into this fitting there, and that'll attach to the battery and the chassis. And the power wire is also going to be coming in through there and going to the fuse box. But that's going to branch off from the disconnect and the breaker and all that stuff. The power is going to be ran a little weird because the battery is going to be back there and the fuse box is there, but you know, that's what we got to do. So you can see I've got the wire right here. This is the power for the taillights running all the way through there. It's all daisy chained together all on one circuit because that's what it needs. It just needs to be on one circuit. Now we'll get the grounds all daisy chained, and then from there they're going to be run off of these guys. So right now we'll just get all the grounds daisy chained, and then we'll start working on the actual fuel pump plug. You guys, so this is my wiring for the rear. We've got a total of 9 wires going back there. We've got 4 power wires, but I only ran 2 off of some 14 gauge wire, and the rest I ran off of some 18 gauge wire. And for the grounds, I tied all the grounds together. So we've got a loom coming from over there, and over here we've got it running all the way to the fuel pump. We've got 1 ground wire that I've got them all tied together for all the lights, except I missed the reverse lights unfortunately, so I sort of did this. I have them going here, which was a ground originally, and I just sort of slipped it through this section here and ran the wire like that to both lights. For the brake lights, we've got one of these reds is the power for that, and each 4 plugs gets power from that same red. So all those are chained together and good to go. On the fuel pump, we've got our power and our ground, and we've just got to get some 18 gauge wire over here so we can get the gas gauge signal wire and the low fuel light wire, and then that'll be done. And that's what this is for. This guy right here is some 18 gauge 2 conductor wire, so there's a red and a black 18 gauge wire in here, so that's going to be going to the fuel pump for those 2 wires. And then we have these, this is a 18 gauge 4 conductor wire, so there's 4 18 gauge wires in here. There's red, black, white, and green. So each one of these wires, we're going to have one going to the left turn signal, one going to the right turn signal, one going to the reverse lights, and one going to each brake light. And now we have the rear section of the car all wired up and ready to go. So that's awesome. We've got the fuel pump wired in, good to go. I put some loom on it. I'm not putting any loom on this for right now because I need to order some loom that's the correct size. I need to get some bigger loom that's the split like this one, so I can just slide it over. And then we do have, it goes into a loom there, and then it comes out up there, comes out right there where all those wires are, and then we'll get them landed in the fuse box, the ones that need to go there, and then others need to go up to the steering column. Okay guys, so I want to update you guys real quick. I've just been going in on this wiring and trying to get everything going because I'd like to get everything done and get this video out. So right there we've got our 3 harnesses from the front, the 2 lights, fans, and the windshield wipers, and they sort of merge into one there, and then some branch off and go to the steering column, and others go to the switch panel, and some go back here to the fuse box to get power. And I'm also working out the headlights and turn signal, hazard light, little mess down there. I'm gonna delete this ignition cylinder. Maybe not delete it, but sort of not have it plugged in, you know, because we don't need that anymore. I'm not going to be hooking up the clutch where the clutch has to be pressed in, so you have to start the car. That's not going to get hooked up. I will have brake lights, so I've got to do that. So that's that plug there. For some reason, this plug that I pulled off the car, I labeled brake lights. They're not the same plugs, like they don't plug into each other, so I don't know where I got this. Same thing with the clutch pedal one. It does not plug into the switch on the clutch, so I don't know what happened there. For the brake lights, I'm just going to be using these guys. These are called spade terminals. They're really easy to use, and they just sort of pop on the plug. I'd also like to mention that I got this taken care of. That's this guy right there, that little LED cube thing. I ran it through there into the door. I will be getting the Street Faction door cards, so this will be all covered. It'll look all nice, but that's not, or we're not in a hurry to get those. But I got it running in here in that new loom with the speaker wires, and those come out here. We've got our power for the lights, and then in here we've got our 2 speaker wires in there, just chilling in there. And those are going to run to the center where the radio is going to be. And the power from the lights is going to run into this fuse box here. Also, I've got the light bar here. We've got that ran down there. And the ground is that right there. That's our ground. And then we've got our loom running down, and it runs along the top of the dash bar, and that goes to there, and from there it's going to go back to the fuse box as well. But I think I'm actually going to tie in that power with the power that goes to the mirrors, because they're going to be on the same switch, so they're going to be on the same circuit. So I think we can just tie into the powers for each one. They'll be on a 30 amp circuit, and that's more than enough for the amperage of these lights. Alright guys, so it's been a little while since I picked up the camera, but I cleaned up this area, got it looking good. I went ahead and I did this on this door, and again did the new loom down there that you can't really see. There he is. And shoved it in the grommet. And I've got that right there is our speaker wire on the right side, and then our left speaker wire somewhere over there. I will be putting loom on this exposed wire. I just have to order the right size loom, because I don't, like, this is all I have right now, and that's super fucking big, and I don't really want to run it with that. I ended up putting the grounds there. I think that'll be fine. I was gonna put like a bus bar, but I don't know, I might still do that, but I think that'll be fine. And then throughout the car I will be putting like cables going from one section of the car to the other, just to make sure the whole chassis is ground. I'm about to start on the steering column controls and everything on there, but before I did that, I went and ran just about everything. There's a few more things that need to go here. They need to get into the fuse box, but that is essentially most of it. The only thing that's left is the headlights. They go there, and then the wires for the switch panel that's going to be in here. And then once that's in, then we can start wiring up the switch panel, and then we can start landing everything in the fuse box, and then we could work out the battery. Alright, so another update. Before getting the steering and stuff figured out, I was really worried about the whole transmission harness for the car, because finding the diagrams on that is a pain in the ass, and it wasn't gonna happen. So here's the transmission harness, or at least what's left of it. So I'm not gonna be using the neutral switch, I'm not gonna be using this guy, and I'm not gonna be using this guy, because I don't even know what this goes to. I'll have to see if I can find it. However, finding diagrams for the transmission harness is fucking impossible. But back here, one of these, I believe this one is the reverse, and this is the neutral switch. I will be using the reverse, so my reverse lights work when I go in reverse. And then also the oil pressure OEM one, I will be using that as well, so I'll have to plug that in. And that's that guy right there, that yellow guy in the middle of your screen. So I'll have to plug that in, but I mean, I'm not going to be using this fuse box here. We're not using that. So here's the harness for the alternator. This thick white wire with the blue stripe, that goes to your battery, and this wire goes to the battery as well. However, it is on the plug, which, let me unplug it for you guys. So this right here, this is the thick white wire, and that is the constant 12-volt power that you get to it. Here's the ground for the alternator, and that you can ground on the chassis, the motor, just it needs to be grounded. This thick white wire, that connects with this thick white wire, and they both go to the battery, but first they go to the fuse, which is this guy, a 75 amp alternator fuse, and then from there it goes to the battery and it goes to the fuse box. This white red wire, this goes to a light. It goes to the battery light on the cluster. If you do not hook it up to a light, your alternator will not charge your battery. So you can either hook it up to a light or a resistor. You might as well just hook it up to a light, and then you don't even have to look at the light. You can just have it hidden somewhere, but it just needs to be hooked up to a light, or the alternator will not be charging your battery. So I'm just trying to get everything routed to the battery. I have to order the battery because I'm going to get a yellow top Optima battery, because this battery's dead. It won't start the car, but I can still use it to turn lights on and stuff. Like, it still puts out like 12.5 volts, but it just won't start the car. So until we get everything wired up and good, then we'll order the battery, and then I won't have to worry about it dying. It's such a drastic difference, dude. So yeah, you can see I've got my battery cable running up. That's going to the starter. That's coming down here. That's going to the starter, and I've also got the signal wire from the starter there. So that wire is going to end up going onto a toggle switch, and from the toggle switch it'll go to the engine start button. I decided to just throw it there because the switch panel I have already has a cigarette lighter, so I don't need that, and it fits perfectly. And it's good. And then it's always going to be lit when the toggle switch is on, so I'd rather have it not pointing at me while it's lit 24/7. So we will have it go from there to the start button, and from there it goes to the power. So we'll have, here's our battery. We'll have the power coming off the battery, going to a toggle switch, to a start button, and then to the starter, and that's the signal wire. And then from there we've got our 12 volt constant, which is going to come off the terminal because it's going to be a thicker gauge wire. But that is going to go directly to the starter, and then our starter's grounded. I can't find like an actual ground on the starter, but when it's hooked up to the motor, it's metal on metal, so it'll be grounded that way. And if not, then I'll have to figure out something. But I think that should be good. So that's how I'm gonna wire it up. And then there's the alternator. I messed up. That's actually a white-red wire. These two are white-blue wires. And then we've got our ground. Obviously that goes to ground. And yeah, so I'll continue and then I'll update you guys as we get some more progress done. For the sake of this video not being any longer than it needs to be, I decided to just put my head down and go after it, get the harness pretty much done. We're almost done. We're not totally done yet, but we're getting pretty close to being able to test it with the battery, make sure everything works. But yeah, I decided not to film that because it is just boring stuff. You're not gonna learn anything from it really. I'll show you guys right now a little updated version of where we're at. It looks a lot better than the last time I showed you guys. It looks a little different, doesn't she, guys? We actually have our switch panel wired up, good to go. We've got the headlights are on, turn signals, the windshield wipers. This blue wire is the dummy light or battery light, whatever, for the alternator. If there's no light hooked up on there, then the alternator won't charge the battery and your battery will die, but I will go over that once we hook up everything. But we've got it routed here, and it's going through there, and then it's going to go up into this fuse box. We haven't landed anything in there yet. Right now I'm working on getting the power to there. That's what this wire is. That is going to the kill switch, which is this guy. And from there, this guy is going to connect to that battery cable there. And this wire here is the power for our fuse box. But from here, I need to install that breaker. I've got to figure out where I want it. And then I might just put it like right there. Just, why not, right? But I won't mount it right now because I am going to remove this and remove the rest of the sound deadening and spray some bed liner on it so it looks a little better. But for now, let's just get everything going, so I'll update you guys in a bit once we've got more done. Alright guys, we got a huge update for you. I'll just jump right into it. We've got the dash in, center console in, switch panel is just chilling there. I'll have to redo this trim piece out of some sheet metal. It's not a big deal. But we've got our start button wired up. 250 amp breaker, kill switch, and our fuse panel. Everything in here is pretty much good to go. Yeah, I mean, everything is in, everything's labeled on here. Just, you know, sort of, like we got the gist of everything. And we've got our relays right there. And we've got our cables running there, running through. Unfortunately, the little piece that goes here, this guy, he sort of doesn't fit all the way down anymore. So I'll have to figure something out for there. I might end up like cutting the bottom off and then redoing the bottom. I don't know yet. That doesn't matter. Yeah, and then we've got some stuff up here for our steering. Some cluster stuff. This is the this is going to be for a switch, so that switch has to be on in order for the start button to work. This is the dummy light for the alternator, the battery light. Your car won't charge the battery if it doesn't have a light on the alternator. And yeah, I mean, everything is looking good. We got a ground cable right there, and I will be branching off and doing grounds throughout the chassis just to make sure everything is good and grounded. But we're ready to put the battery in, so let's do that. Kill switch off. Okay guys, so as soon as I turn the kill switch, we should get power to our switch panel. Oh, would you look at that. This battery is kind of dead, but it'll work for testing purposes. But let's make sure the breaker works, and it does. Kill switch off, reset the breaker, turn it back on. Things good. Turn it off. Everything's good there. And the start button. Let's have this switch. Turn it on. There we go. Start button works. These are our fuse boxes. None of our fuses are blown. Those red lights in the middle would light up if one of the fuses were blown. Now let's test some stuff. We can't do the fuel pump because I don't have fuel lines yet, so we're not going to be testing that. But the fans. They're going. They're going. Let's do the wipers. Hazards, you can hear the flasher relay clicking. You can see in the reflection. So that's great. Let's do turn signal. That's the right turn signal. Oh, that's not good. That one should be lighting up, not this one. Signaling to go right, not left. So let's double check that it is switched on the other side. Yeah, so we'll just have to switch the two wires. So not a big deal. Let's do the headlights. And the headlights did not turn on, so I'm assuming the taillights did not turn on as well. Okay. Now we'll do the light bar. It works. So I have to take a look at the headlights and taillight wiring. I have a feeling it's in this area that something's going wrong. Probably just a loose connection or something. But yeah, everything else works. Alright guys, the chassis harness is complete. As far as, wiring and everything goes, I still gotta do loom and stuff. I'm gonna get some Tessa tape, which is like wire harness tape, and wrap everything in there. I think it'll be easier if I do it that way. But everything works as it should, which is awesome. Okay, so I'll go through this a little bit. We've got our 3 relays. We've got our light bars, fuel pump, radiator fans. And from there, these white wires, those are the ones that go to the switch. They go to the switch panel. And the yellow wires go to the actual accessory. So one goes to the power for the light bars, the power for the fuel pump, and the power for the radiator fans. The relay basically controls everything. Once the switch goes and grounds out, it grounds out the relay, which closes the contact between the power and the this wire, which sends power to the accessory. I've got my little ground bar right there. Got all my grounds. I've got the ground going following there, and it's actually just chilling right there. And here we've got all our fuses. This one is actually for the starter. I don't have a thing that says starter, so it's cool. It's the thickest wire, and it shouldn't ever blow. Like, realistically, I shouldn't have to worry about it, but you know, it's there to be there. But we've got everything labeled. Got the top left is our headlights, and that is on a 15 amp fuse. The first 3 are on 15 amp fuses, and then a 10 and 15. So starting from the left on the top, we've got our headlights, our turn signals and / hazard lights, our radio, our windshield wipers, and our brake lights. And on the right, we've got the light bars, we've got our fuel pump, and we have our fans. And then all the way at the bottom, like I said, that's this guy, that's the starter. Power's feeding to this guy, which then feeds to the starter. Power here, this big thick 0 gauge red cable, that goes directly to the starter. That's gonna go on, so that 0 gauge wire is gonna go on this terminal, and on this spade terminal we are going to have the signal from the switch. So that should be good for the starter. Alright guys, so I just want to say thank you if you've made it this far, and I really hope that this video has helped you. And if you have any questions, comment down below. I might be able to answer them, someone else might be able to answer them. You never know. So just comment down below, and if I forget anything like important, I'll be sure to put it in the description, as well as there will be links to the products I use, like the switch panel, some of the wires, just little things here and there that you might need. Some tools maybe. That'll be in the description if you want to check that out. And yeah, I mean, we did it, guys. Right, so once again, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you did, comment down below, and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.